It's saying you're live now, so I'll suspect I'm live. Hi everyone, hope you're doing okay. It's Friday, so it's time for our Fibro Friday episode. And because on top of being Fibromyalgia Awareness Month, it is also Mental Health Awareness Week. Today I wanted to talk more about mental health and the impact that it has in people with chronic illness. I've covered this topic before, so I'm not necessarily gonna repeat myself, but I really want to sort of talk about just some things that I've experienced myself and that I think it's worth mentioning, and some things that I think can help some other people. So first of all, just to clear up the air, I know I've done this all the time, but anyway, fibromyalgia is not a mental health illness, for starters. It's a neurological condition. It's not the same. But it is true that being a chronic illness, it does have a severe impact on your mental health. And the reason for that is because, think about it, people with fibromyalgia are constantly in chronic pain, chronic fatigue, and brain fog. All of these three conditions, let alone anything else that you may have on top of that, they can just be very frustrating. They are not terribly pleasant to deal with. And for me, particularly the brain fog, I'm sure I've said this before, but it can be really, really frustrating because I'm an academic, I'm a scholar. My job is literally talking to people as a tour guide. So when I wake up and my brain just doesn't want to cooperate, neither in English or in Spanish, it generally sort of makes you feel defeated. So it's something that it's a very, very tenuous, slippery slope. So if you're not constantly checking on your mental health when you have chronic illness and things like that, it's just very easy to go to dark places very quickly. I think the worst time for me, other than when it's been because of medication induced, so this is another thing a lot of people don't know. A lot of people that have fibromyalgia and other chronic illnesses, they have to take certain medications just to be functional or to numb the pain or for whatever reason. And a lot of those medications can cause mental health disorders as a side effect. It's actually very common, even if they are even medications that are designed to help you with mental health, can cause mental health disorders as an association disorder. And it is terrible because you're sort of relying on these things to kind of make you better. And they may be fixing your pain, but perhaps they're completely making you anxious or depressed or paranoid, etc. So it is really hard. So one of the things I wanted to say was sort of that, I'm not saying don't rely on medications. I'm not saying don't take your meds. I'm saying if you're particularly new to the illness, or if you've been dealing with the same problems for quite some time and you're thinking, what else can I do to make this sustainable? Revise your medications and make sure that they are actually not, getting in the way of your own mental health, because it's very important. I mean, in the long term, if you have to deal with fatigue, pain, and fog, and you're in a mental state that is just unable to deal with the stress, it's just gonna get worse. I would quite happily take chronic pain and no signs of depression, anxiety, etc. for the rest of my life, because otherwise it's just very, very difficult to see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? So that's one thing I wanted to sort of address. The other thing that I wanted to address is that although we may not all necessarily go through bouts of mental health issues, because of how our brain works, it's quite easy that we may not digest stress in the same way that some other people. So some people with fibromyalgia just may not have depression or anxiety or anything similar, but they may just simply not be able to deal with stress very well. That obviously takes a toll on mental health as well, and it just makes every single symptom that you have just 3 times worse. And why can't we handle stress sometimes very well? Well, like I said, when you're constantly fatigued and in pain, the added pressure just kind of reinforces the pain, it reinforces the fatigue. And what that causes on your brain is a it's a complete wire issue. It just reinforces, like it's just a perpetual vicious cycle. The stress makes the pain worse, the pain makes the fatigue worse, the fatigue makes the stress worse because you're constantly getting behind on things, and so does the pain, and so it just starts running and running and running to the point where you just end up completely run to the ground. You feel like you're literally going crazy, and it's very, very hard to balance. So I really cannot emphasize how important it is to have just general tools and resources that you can have at hand that really help you to just cope with everyday stress. Like, I'm not even talking about, an emergency or something really bad happens or you have a flare. I'm literally talking about day to day. And why is that day to day managing of our mental health and stress levels when we are chronically ill so important? Well, as you know, because of our condition, we simply don't know when things can get worse, when we may have a flare or whatever. So it's really important that everything that we can do as a routine to improve our general well-being, we do whatever it takes. Because we may not be able to prevent that flare from happening, but if our mental health and our general health is at least constant, then we are definitely mitigating further damage, right? And that's why it matters. So practice gratefulness. Take a moment to disconnect from the world and actually realize that as much as you may be in pain or fatigue or things may be bad, there are still good things in your life. And I genuinely appreciate this is easier said than done. Like, I get it. But try. Just simply try to focus on something else. I don't mean it as a distraction. I genuinely mean it so that you can find hope. As soon as we have chronic illness and we lose hope, mental health is destroyed. So find those little nuggets of gold that will get you through the dark. Because otherwise, this is going to be a tough, long gig. So materialize that gratefulness from wherever you can. Let go of your concern about what other people may think about you. A lot of people with chronic illness live under constant stress because they are concerned about the expectations that society or their friends, family, etc. imposes on them. Just, honestly, forget them. And again, I completely get it. It's not that simple. But you must try to find a way to do this because it's your life. It's your health, not theirs. As much as they may be sympathetic, and obviously if they are not sympathetic or empathetic, well then we don't even have a case. They don't know what it's like to be in your shoes. They don't know what it's like to deal what you have to deal every single day. So stop worrying about what they may think and worry about you think about yourself, you do for yourself, and what you could do if you are not doing it. Once we actually find ourselves free from these sort of expectations, free from these judgments, and we stop applying these judgments and expectations to the rest of mankind, there's a beautiful moment when we can just sort of find that moment of peace, of like, it doesn't matter. It's completely, temporary. It will pass. I really know that this takes a lot of energy. I don't expect you to go full on from the beginning, but it is very important that you try to incorporate this as part of your routine and you try to be self-reflective on this as much as possible, just to give yourself a fighting chance. Because let's face it, when we have fibromyalgia or anything similar, we're not fighting or competing against anyone else. We're just competing against ourselves. And all you need to get through day to day is know that you as a person are wonderful and you can do better for you, by you. The rest of the world, that's up to them. That's not up to you. On that front, I really cannot emphasize how important this is. Like, really, really important. Create toolboxes that will help you, disconnect from the world and reconnect with yourself. That will keep your mental health balanced. Go for walks around nature. Honestly, greenery and fresh air and touching the fresh ground, or sand or the sea, anything, even just petting a horse or an alpaca or your dog or a cat, I don't care. Connect with things that are not necessarily just humans, because the world doesn't judge you. It's a huge relief just being able to be away from the stress of actual modern society and just having a moment for yourself. It will do you a wealth of good. And I appreciate that if you have restricted mobility issues or anything else, it may not be very easy, but try to find a way that works for you to incorporate that into your life, because honestly, I can guarantee you, if you give it a chance, it will help. And there is actually a lot of medical studies that are coming out that confirm this is the case, and that nature therapy and animal therapy and things like just having like allotments where you can grow your own fruit and vegetables, and that sort of things, generally connecting with the earth and getting those isotopes and chemicals into your brain, super super important to balance mental health. And as well, if you have chronic illness, and particularly fibromyalgia, even if you just do that for literally 15 seconds or whatever, it also gives you a sense of validation and independence. And if you're doing something a bit more proactive, like having an allotment, or taking care of an animal, or just spending some time in a cat cafe taking cute pictures of cats and dogs and that stuff, it helps you remember that you're human and you're like everyone else. Like your illness doesn't matter in this situation, and it can even have a direct positive impact on you, whether it's growing your actual fruit or plants, or that connection with a living being that is just there ultimately to give you love and to accept you as who you are. I can't emphasize this enough. We all should do it in general, whether you have a mental health condition or a chronic illness or anything. We should do this a lot more than we do, but particularly if you're struggling with these issues, please, this is the best that you can do by yourself. So I hope that makes some sense. The other thing that I was also gonna talk about is the moments when we become overwhelmed because there's too much information around us. There is such a thing as disconnecting from the world. I don't necessarily mean become a hermit. If you want to, go for it. I'm not gonna say no, but in the same way that you sort of schedule rest for your own sort of physical well-being, make sure that you schedule rest for your own mental well-being. So turn off the news, disconnect your phone, turn off the computer, whatever. Practice simple pleasures. Read a book, cook something for yourself, or stay locked in a complete dark room in silence and just breathe, or do things like that sort of are just safe spaces created for you, by you, under your own terms. Otherwise, like I said, we juggle too much stuff. It's very, very easy to just go down the slope and find ourselves in a rut from where we can't move on from. And difficult as it is, and I know it's very, very difficult, for the sake of mental health as well, try to find people that you can connect with, and that you can connect with by being your true self. Whether that is a support group for other people with fibromyalgia, it doesn't have to be in person. It can just be online if you can't actually go out and get onto places to meet people. Doesn't matter. Just connect with people online, talk to them online, create a little routine. Maybe, I don't know, do Zoom and cake, or a hobby that you all can do, or watch movies together at the same time. I don't care. Find those people, even if it's just one other human being. Because again, having someone that relates, that can bounce off you, it's an incredible amount of dopamine that comes directly into your brain saying, yay, you have this connection with another human being, you're not alone, you can do this, you can get through it. So it's really important that we don't remain isolated, because we are very much isolated, and it's a side effect that not a lot of people know about of having a chronic illness or a mental health condition. And I know it's a huge barrier and it's super difficult to overcome, but you must find a way to get there. And if you don't know how, or you don't know where to start, or you're scared that people will reject you, or whatever, ask for help. sometimes we are too scared to ask for help. And sometimes it's not just the only thing that we can do, but the best thing that we can do. Whether it's from a professional or from a good sounding board or, whatever, whoever, your GP, psychologist, your mom, your sister, your dog, I don't care. Ask for help. And someone will be able to at least open a door for you, because that's all you need at the end of the day. You just need a door that will give in a little bit so you can go through it and find your own space. And those are the things that I really wanted to talk about today, about mental health and chronic illness. These things particularly, I think, after having gone through a pandemic and everything else that we're dealing with, I appreciate there is a lot of, fear out there in the world. We have wars going on left, right, and center. It is a scary moment in time, and it's perfectly normal if you're feeling apathetic or not empathetic in any way, shape, or form, or if you're just too worried about everything and you have so much going on. I get it. It's perfectly legitimate, but we need to start somewhere. So think about some of this stuff that I've said today. Pick something that you think sounds easy, or at least list them down in somewhere where you will see it, somewhere where it will have to be a visual reminder, just so you can at least have the active conscious thought that you're trying to do something to improve your mental health. Because even if you don't completely go through with it, the fact that you're constantly reminding yourself, no, I'm trying, I'm just trying to figure out a way or a good time or whatever, it is still positive reinforcement. It still shows that you haven't given up. It still shows that there is hope. And like I said, hope is really all that matters and what we should strive for. And at least from my experience, I can say that if we just allow ourselves to have a little hope and become a little vulnerable and try to face our fears about these things, you may be surprised by what people will, give you back. But, getting to that stage is hard. So I wish you the best of luck. And as always, if you don't know where to start and anything that I said today resonates with you, or you just want to talk about it, talk it through, I'm here. Doesn't matter if you don't know me, doesn't matter if you just met me today, doesn't matter if you've never met me. Drop me a message. We'll talk it out. Okay, well, I hope you all have a lovely weekend, and I'll see you again next week for some more fibromyalgia awareness during Fibromyalgia Awareness Month. And please, if you can, share the fundraiser, even if it's just to raise awareness. If you can donate, great, but just for the sake of raising awareness and making people more aware that these things are going on in our lives, that would be fantastic. Thank you so much, and take care. Bye.